Happy New Year and welcome to Fairy Oasis. My name is Lillian and I create miniatures for both fairy gardens and for dollhouses. But today I would like to bring you a tutorial on how to create your very own miniature room box out of cardboard. Now, I personally like to work in 1/12 scale, and the measurements I'll be using will be for that scale. However, by just doing a little math, you can create your own room box schematics for a different scale. So if you're interested, go ahead and hang out with me and I'll walk you through the process. Let's talk tools and supplies. For this project, you will need a ruler, a carpenter square, or a stencil, a pencil, a box cutter, knife, or sturdy pair of scissors. Quick life tip here, do not use somebody's sewing shears to cut the cardboard. They will end you. Plenty of cardboard. Glue. I used all-purpose craft glue, wide tape, and gesso. Now, before we dive into cutting and gluing, let's talk about planning. You can get very detailed with this. You can decide exactly what furniture you want and where, if you'll be moving it around or gluing them down in place. Or you can pick a size and work within those constraints. Now, I work mostly in 1 inch or 1/12 scale. But if you want more information on other scales, I will leave some links below in the description for you. Personally, I have found a 10 by 10 inch room with 3 10-inch walls is fairly uncomplicated to build, and I think it's a pretty good place to start. If you're going to add any windows or doors, it is a good idea to have a visual plan. I did several sketches and a detailed floor plan for my cottage witch's kitchen. For my newest project, I created a basic 10 by 10 grid to represent the floor and another for the back wall with the window in it. I did this in a free vector graphics editor called Inkscape. It made it very easy for me to alter the size of the window without having to redraw the entire back wall. I was also able to create boxes that represented the floor space taken up by different furniture pieces I might use that I could then move around the grid to see how my room might work. If you don't have a program to use for this, you can do it by hand. By using a ruler and a pencil, you can carefully draw out a 1-inch grid pattern to whatever size you need. You can then draw your layout on top of that. However, I would suggest the method I have used before. Cut out paper shapes for each of the pieces of furniture and place them around the layout to see what looks best. Then draw the final plan onto your grid. I really suggest that you just take your time with the planning, have some fun, and choose items and things that excite you. Now, let's talk about cutting pieces out for your room box. How you mark out and cut your pieces is going to depend on 2 things: the tools you have and how well you know how to use them. Just remember to measure twice and cut once. If you're very careful and precise, you should be able to mark your shapes out with a ruler and pencil. A good carpenter square could also be very helpful. Depending on the size you need, you can print out and cut a pattern to draw around. If you're working with a size larger than 8 inches, though, you will need to be creative. You can make portions of the pattern and then tape them together. For instance, I printed out my pattern in 2 separate halves and then taped them together, though I did find that it was slightly smaller than the 10 by 10 that it was supposed to be. so be sure to measure your pattern for accuracy. For cutting, you may find it easier to use whatever straight lines are already on the cardboard. The edges of the lid flaps may already be nice and squared, so you can align your pattern pieces with those for the least amount of cutting. If you're using a knife or box cutter, be sure to protect the surface you're working on. I have a designated piece of cardboard for this. However, I think a cutting mat might actually be a more effective tool. Also, no matter what you're cutting with, be sure to cut safely. You don't want to hurt yourself. I cut out 3 walls, 1 ceiling, and 2 floor pieces. I personally like to double up the floor. I feel like it makes it a little bit sturdier, but I can't really say if it actually helps. Now, I have used hot glue before. However, I read from other crafters that the newer hot glues can become brittle over time and shatter. So on my latest project, I tried using craft glue. It worked great, and I had more time to align my pieces. So I do suggest trying the craft glue. You will want to hold the pieces in place for a bit and then set them up with something to keep them there while the glue sets. I used some old glass candle containers for mine. Just be sure to pick items you're not worried will get stuck to your project. I let each wall set before I added the next. With the craft glue, 30 minutes to an hour should serve you well. After everything is glued together, let the project sit out of reach of children and pets for about 24 hours. That way you know the glue is completely dry and everything is set and none of your walls are going to be shifting around. I'm not a big fan of the exposed corrugation. Apparently it's called fluting. I have found I can cover the edging with tape, as well as taping the other edges for a cleaner look. I will warn before the next step, you should let it sit for at least an hour to see if the tape is going to stay. I had some trouble the first time I did this and had to buy different tape because the one I was using was either old or cheap. Depending on how you dress the box after this step, you may find subtle lines where the tape edges are. If this bothers you, you may want to try something else, but I do have a trick for hiding them. After everything is glued and taped and secure, paint the whole thing with at least 2 layers of gesso. You can maybe skip this if you're going to use paper to decorate your box, but this will give something nice and even for any paint to go on. Now, if you want to cover those lines or want to create texture on your walls or ceiling, you can use modeling paste. Depending on how you apply it, you can get a variety of textures. Since it's used to texture paintings, you'll be able to paint right over it. I'm still very much a beginner at this, but I have learned a few things. At least with cardboard, attach your walls before decorating them. It got messy on my first box and the inside edges were a little weird. Paint the walls before you decorate the floor. It's too easy to get splatter on the finished floor that you can't get back up. Always run the numbers on your math at least twice. If a math nerd can make mistakes, anyone can. Oh, and I will leave a link in the description on Black Magic base coat. It was super useful for making the tile flooring for my kitchen. I hope this tutorial has been helpful for you, and I really hope that some of you get out there and create some beautiful things. If you have any other questions about this process, feel free to let me know down in the comments. And if you want to see more of my personal creations and the antics I get into, go ahead and check out my social media down below in the description box. Until next time, ta-ta!